Does it ever seem like your to-do list is practically shouting at you? Everything on the list seems so loud, and it's like it is literally waving hands, yelling, "Pick me, I'm the most important thing." And every single one of them is yelling that same thing. Or maybe it's not your to-do list. Maybe it is online shopping or ordering from DoorDash, and you're scrolling and something catches your eye and it creates that anticipatory excitement. And suddenly your brain jumps in with, we need this right now. Stop everything, click buy. Yeah, me too. And that is what we're talking about today in episode 293 of the I'm Busy Being Awesome podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are talking about decision-making and impulsivity with an ADHD brain. Because let's be real, the combination of those two can feel like a constant battle for a lot of us. Our brains struggle to separate what's actually important from what's just demanding our attention in the moment. And because of that, we tend to either, number one, spin in indecision, trying to make the quote unquote right choice. Number two, just avoid the whole thing altogether. Or number three, give in to that overwhelming sense of urgency that's coming from the immediate reward without really thinking about the long-term implications. And when everything seems like it matters right now, it's why so many of us feel stuck and overwhelmed in our day-to-day. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to feel so chaotic. There is a way that we can step back and quiet the noise and start making decisions with greater clarity. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to talk about a powerful framework that's really helped me cut through the overwhelm, stop spinning, and start focusing on what truly matters. And I'm calling it the Rule of Fives. And it's based on 4 super easy to remember questions. Will this matter 5 minutes from now? Will this matter 5 days from now? Will this matter 5 months from now? And will this matter 5 years from now? Those 4 simple questions. 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months, 5 years. Will this matter? I find this framework so helpful. It's like a reset button for my brain. It allows us to press pause, to get some perspective, and to decide intentionally what's actually worth our time and our energy and our attention. It has been so helpful for me in moments when urgency and indecision take over. And I really think you're going to love this framework too. So let's dive in. Let's talk about what this framework is, how it works. And first, I'm going to share a little bit about where I heard another version of this idea and how I came to adapt it to better support the ADHD brain. So, like I said, this is not my original framework. The idea actually comes from another approach called the 10-10-10 rule. And it was created by a person named Susie Welch. And the 10-10-10 rule is essentially a decision-making approach that asks you to consider the impact of your choices over 3 timeframes, okay? 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years. So it's super simple. It's very powerful. It's incredibly helpful for getting us to slow down and gain that clarity. Now, when I first heard about the 10-10-10 rule, I thought, this is amazing. I love it. But also, for my ADHD brain, I need some time frames that feel a little closer, a little more actionable. I need something that works in the moment when I'm stuck in urgency and spinning or stuck in that decision paralysis. As ADHD brains, our time horizons are so much different from the neurotypical, the non-ADHD brain. Time is often classified as now or not now. Those are our 2 options. And so for my brain, it was very difficult to jump from 10 minutes all the way to 10 months. My brain was like, I don't know what that means. Get out of here. That's too far of a leap. So what I did was I adapted this into this rule of 5. And instead of looking at 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years, we instead ask ourselves, Will this matter 5 minutes from now? Will this matter 5 days from now? Will this matter 5 months from now? And will this matter 5 years from now? This shorter time frame of 5 minutes and 5 days, really weaving those in, I've found that it helps me provide a bit more structure for my brain. It provides that way to pause and get some perspective on the more immediate impact, while also helping me zoom out and kind of get away from the noise and help me focus on what really matters, whether it's deciding what to do next or how to spend my energy or whether or not to hit buy on another hoodie in my shopping cart. The answer, Paula Engebretson, is always no. You do not need another hoodie. Okay, so let's talk about why it's so powerful to ask, will this even matter? As we know, when everything seems equally important to our ADHD brains, it's a little bit like we're stuck in this mental tug of war. And the tug of war is between urgency and overwhelm on one side and our rational brain on the other. And the problem here is that urgency and overwhelm, they tag team. And you have 2 against 1 with the rational brain, so they often win. And when that urgency and that overwhelm take over, we tend to lose sight of what does actually matter in the bigger picture. And so that's where these 4 questions come in so powerfully. Will this matter in 5 minutes? Will this matter in 5 days, 5 months, and 5 years from now? It's a simple set of questions, but I'm telling you, it has the incredible ability to help us break through the noise. And it gives us that moment to pause so that we can slow down and step back and evaluate what's really worth our time and our resources. It's like a spotlight for clarity when everything else seems quite foggy. So let's talk through this framework a little bit more specifically and the role that each of those 4 different time frames plays. Okay, so starting with 5 minutes. This is to help us cut through that immediate emotional pull, that right now feeling to which our ADHD brains are especially sensitive, right? We know this one so well. It's in these moments when we do want to pause and ask ourselves, will this thing that I want to say or this area that I want to check, quote unquote, real quick, will this actually matter in 5 minutes? Is this task or this decision just kind of grabbing my attention because it seems urgent in the moment? Or is it truly important right now? Am I chasing the short-term relief of avoiding the hard thing or the excitement of starting something new? For example, let's say I feel the pull to scroll on social media instead of working on an outline for a course I'm creating. Okay, in the next 5 minutes, scrolling might feel more satisfying. In fact, I can guarantee it would feel more satisfying than trying to really think through this course outline. I get that instant dopamine boost when I open up the app. But when I pause to ask myself that question, will this matter 5 minutes from now? What I can see is that, whatever shows up on Instagram, no, that's not going to matter. But if I use those 5 minutes to help me transition into the work, to help me get into flow, it's likely going to feel so much better because it will get me into the work and I'll have made some progress on that outline. Then we move to the next time frame, right? 5 days. So now we're looking at a short-term perspective. By the end of the week, how will this decision, this task, this action impact my goals, impact my priorities? Will it matter that I made time to check this thing 5 days from now? Or which decision would have a bigger impact? If I check Instagram, will this add to my stress or will it help me lighten the load? So if we use that same example, if I chose to spend my time scrolling social media instead of working on my outline, by the end of the week, I might feel super swamped because I never got started. And my brain is telling me, I can't believe you didn't start. I let it snowball. So I never made that progress I actually wanted to. But if I dedicated, even 30 minutes to that outline over the course of the week, I am likely to see significant progress. And that would feel so much more meaningful. Then we get to 5 months. At 5 months, we start connecting our decisions to our medium-ish to long-term goals. This is where we want to ask ourselves, will this decision matter 5 months from now? Which decision will have a more positive impact over the next 5 months? How does this choice support the things that are important to me over the next 5 months? Will this decision move me closer to my goals, or is it pulling me further away? So in this time frame, it's less about chasing that immediate emotional boost and instead focusing on the ripple effect. For instance, if I've regularly worked on that course outline, which would lead to the next steps of creating the course, I might have finished that within those 5 months. And that progress builds momentum and it supports the larger goals in my business and my growth or whatever. But if I spent those 5 months falling into the short-term distractions of scrolling Instagram, I'll likely feel super stuck. I'll be in the same spot as where I was 5 months ago, where I started. And then we get to 5 years. Okay, so finally, we're going to zoom out all the way to the big picture, those long-term goals. And maybe it's not even goals, just the big picture, where we're going. And this is where we want to ask the big questions. When I look back 5 years from now, will this decision have made a meaningful difference in my life? Does this choice align with the person I want to be or the life I want to create? Now, this time frame can be quite clarifying depending on the decision. Sometimes both of the decisions are much shorter term and you don't even need to go out this far. But when they're bigger decisions, this lens can be quite clarifying because it forces us to step out of the immediate urgency and connect with what truly matters. For example, will social media or giving into those types of distractions matter 5 years from now? I mean, they'll matter, but in the negative sense, right? They will not have mattered in a positive way. But the progress I would make on a significant project, on the other hand, if I were to lean in and do the thing during that time, that could absolutely still be shaping my life and contributing to what I'm doing in a really meaningful way. So by asking these questions, we're not just making decisions, we are creating perspective for ourselves. Each time frame really helps us step back from the urgency and look at the bigger picture and make those choices that align with our goals, that align with our values. And for ADHD brains, this shift from right now to what truly matters can be so grounding and incredibly helpful. Now, maybe when you heard me use the social media example, you're thinking, well, yeah, that makes sense. I don't actually need a framework to know that scrolling social media is not going to be the best use of my time. Okay, I don't need a framework for that. And if that's the case, I hear you. So let's look at a couple other examples that's maybe a little bit less obvious than scrolling social media. So maybe what you're trying to do is decide between responding to emails that have been sitting in your inbox for a little while or reading an article for a lit review that you're doing. Both tasks in the moment seem equally important. Both seem to be pulling for your attention. And the more that you think about it, and the two different options on how they both seem equally important, the more overwhelmed you feel because you're thinking, I have no idea where to start. This is all so hard. Everything matters the same. So here's where the rule of fives can come into play in a situation like this. And as I talk through the example, notice how there isn't necessarily a right answer. It might differ for each person or the unique situation. So let's start with the 5 minutes. Start with that immediate impact. What feels most urgent in the moment? Maybe it's the emails because they've been sitting in the inbox and you're worried that you're leaving people hanging. Plus, it probably feels more familiar to answer an email and a little bit less taxing on your executive functions than digging in and doing that close reading of an article. Or on the other hand, maybe it's the lit review that feels more pressing because it's connected to a project that has a pretty looming deadline. Or the emails maybe have a lot of emotion wrapped up in them. So it makes reading the article seem a little more appealing because you don't have to deal with those emotions hanging out over there in the emails. So at this stage, we pause and we ask ourselves, which one of these two will matter more in 5 minutes? Or you might ask yourself, am I reacting to an emotional pull, like the stress of seeing those unread emails because I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, they're piling up. I need to get back to these people. They're all getting angry or whatever. Is there a real sense of urgency here that matters in the long term? Now, sometimes 5 minutes might be too close to make a decision with something like this. They might both seem equally important in 5 minutes. Your brain's like, no, they both still matter the same in 5 minutes. So then we can zoom out to 5 days. By the end of the week, which task will have made a bigger difference? If you respond to the emails, maybe it will help you clear some mental space, some actual space in your inbox. Maybe there's something in there that needs to move forward because it's time sensitive and there's people waiting on you. But on the other hand, if you spend time on the article, maybe it's going to contribute to meaningful progress on your lit review. Right? Which one matters most to you with your long-term goals and your objectives in mind? You know, if your lit review has a deadline for next week, focusing on that article might feel more aligned with your current priorities. But if the emails are for your team and they're blocking other people from taking their next steps forward, maybe addressing them would be the better choice. So it depends on you. It depends on your goals and your current situation. But you will know when you ask yourself that question, when you pause and you check in and you go, will this matter 5 days from now? Or which one will make the biggest difference 5 days from now? You help create that clarity for you. Now, maybe 5 days still isn't super clear. Then we zoom out to 5 months. At this stage, you're asking yourself, how does this decision connect to my medium-term goals here? Will this matter 5 months from now? Will responding to emails have a significant impact on the next 5 months? Or will it just be kind of a blip in the radar and it won't actually matter? Will working on the lit review contribute to a larger goal of completing your research or submitting a paper or advancing in your field? Now, I know that this can be a struggle. Okay, 5 months can seem super abstract for our brains. 5 months is not now or not now, right? It seems very far off. But when you take a moment to really think about that ripple effect of your actions, it can help clarify which choice will contribute to your bigger picture. And then finally, we have our 5 years. Okay, when we step all the way back, when you look at this decision from the perspective of 5 years, what stands out? Will you remember those emails? Or will they not matter at all? Will they be long forgotten? Will the lit review article still matter because it contributed to a paper or your dissertation or a milestone? Or maybe it is the emails because there's a significant response required for career advancement or something, right? Again, we need to step back and really think about, for you in your current situation, which one will have the biggest impact. Most likely, this step, that 5-year step, would highlight the bigger picture value of spending time on the lit review in this example, but maybe not. So even here, it's not about creating some hard and fast rule. It's about using the different time frames to gain clarity for you. Now, as you can see, just with these two examples, the rule of fives, 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, this can be used in a lot of different situations. There are 2 areas where I have personally found it to be especially effective. The first is my business, and the second is in managing impulsive shopping decisions. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through both of these just real quick. My favorite phrase. So, like I said, the first area is choosing where to focus my energy in the business. So in my business, the rule of fives has really become one of my go-to strategies when everything seems equally urgent. So if I'm sitting down to plan my week or plan my month, Usually I'm staring at a long to-do list of things that I really want to do. Bunch of competing priorities, writing social media posts, outlining a course module, recording a new podcast episode, designing some new approach for a group. And all of these things seem equally important. They are all yelling at me equally. Do this now. Everything matters. Let's do it all on Monday, right away. But when I can step back and apply the Rule of 5 framework, it helps me see the bigger picture. In 5 minutes, a quick task like writing a social media post might seem like the easiest win, but if I think about 5 days from now, and certainly 5 months and 5 years from now, I can see that focusing on a larger project is going to be more impactful. Creating that course module, recording a podcast episode, that's going to create so much more value for my clients. So this clarity helps me focus my energy during my most productive hours on what aligns with those long-term goals, rather than just doing what feels urgent or the easiest in the moment. And I can remind my brain, don't worry, we can do those social media posts later on in the day, right? After I've finished the most important stuff. And then, like I said, the second area where I find the Rule of 5 incredibly helpful is impulsive shopping decisions. So I love this framework when it comes to shopping. We all have our different buffers of choice. And by buffers, I mean those areas that we turn to when we need a rush of dopamine. And for some of us, it is scrolling. For others, it's a bag of chips. For others, it's video games. One of mine is online shopping, right? That's what my brain wants to go to naturally when I'm seeking dopamine. There is such a rush of doing the research and searching because dopamine is released in the pursuit of something. So finding some quote unquote perfect solution for whatever problem my brain has dreamed up is real. And it's hard to resist hitting the buy button if I don't have something to check in. Okay. And so that is where the Rule of 5 really helps me pause and regain my perspective. In 5 minutes, buying that shiny new thing might feel amazing. And honestly, in 3 to 5 days, whenever it arrives, that might seem exciting too. But for sure, by and large, 98% of the time, by 5 months, if it's some random impulse purchase, I'm going to realize that the notebook or the gadget is collecting dust. And it certainly didn't solve the quote unquote problem my brain made up, because the problem was that I was looking for dopamine, right? Most of the time, those impulsive purchases will not have mattered at all. Certainly not in 5 years, right? So this framework has really helped me avoid distractions and focus on spending both my time and my resources on things that truly align with my goals. So whether it's deciding where to focus my energy in my business or managing the urges around shopping or whatever, the Rule of 5, it creates that space where I talk about the art of the pause, practicing the pause. It allows me to step back, see the bigger picture, and make decisions that align with what truly matters. And for ADHD brains, that pause is often very hard to catch, but when we can, it's all we need to help us really shift from reacting to intentionally responding. That can make all the difference. Now, like I said, this framework is super simple, it's super flexible, but like any new habit or new approach, we want to ease into it and we want to give ourselves space to try it out and see how it works. So I'm going to offer just 4 quick ways to help you make the approach work for you. So number 1, as always, start small. Okay, use the Rule of 5 maybe for one decision today. Try it out. Whether it's deciding what to work on next, or whether you're going to order dinner or make something from home, or whether you want to go visit your friend after work or whatever, pause for clarity. Use it to check in and make one decision. You don't have to overhaul your entire decision-making process today. Start small. Number 2 tip is to write it down. Sometimes jotting down these questions and your responses to them can make that decision feel even more tangible. So whether you use a notebook or a sticky note or the back of a receipt or the Notes app on your phone, try writing it down. Number 3, talk it out. Again, a lot of us are verbal processors, so if writing it down doesn't help, you could try processing it out loud with a friend or a voice app or an accountability buddy or whatever. Verbal processing is so powerful for a lot of us ADHDers. And then, as always, tip number 4 is to give yourself grace and space to try it and iterate. This isn't about getting every decision, quote unquote, right. Right is just a made up thing. Okay. You get to decide. What this is really about is practicing giving yourself space to think and reflect and align with what matters most to you in this season. Okay. So the pause in and of itself is a win. So this week, I invite you to try it out. Try the rule of 5s with one decision, big or small. Ask yourself, will this matter 5 minutes from now, 5 days, 5 months, 5 years from now? And see how it shifts your perspective and really helps you move forward with greater clarity. I would love to hear how it works for you. Let me know. I'm over on Instagram at I'm Busy Being Awesome. You could leave a comment on this post for the episode or send me a DM. I can't wait to hear about it. All right, my friends, that's going to do it for us this week. And if you are ready to take these concepts and apply them to your life, if you're ready to learn how to support your ADHD in a way that works for you, I invite you to check out today's show notes where you can learn more about how we can work together, both in my small group coaching program, We're Busy Being Awesome, as well as one-on-one coaching. Also, if you want to learn my simple step-by-step approach to locking in a routine and making it stick, then check out my free course called the ADHD Routine Revamp. You can tap now through the link in the show notes or head to I'mBusyBeingAwesome.com/routine to sign up. Until next time, keep being awesome. I'll talk with you soon.